Well, I appreciate you guys coming, and I really feel just honored and humbled to be able to facilitate this class. And that's my goal, is to kind of do a little workshop with y'all. And I don't want to just stand up here and talk to you guys. I want to hear from you guys. So I hope you guys are come prepared to share some ideas. And we've got various different types of coaches here, and people with a lot of experience, some new coaches. But this is an area that's really, I think, well, I know it's very, very important. Can I walk around and have this thing fall? Is it going to fall?
Kind of wide angle.
Okay, good, good. So I like to walk around, but yeah, this area is of coaching is, you just have such an incredible opportunity to impact young people, and so it's important that, I think, as a group of coaches, that we're all on the same page with what our goals are and what our understanding of what really coaching looks like from God's perspective and not the world's perspective. So that's kind of what we're going to do. We're going to have some discussion. I want to hear from you guys. And I'm going to share a little bit of what's worked in my experience in coaching 11 years at Trinity. And hopefully can hear from some of you guys, some of the things that you've learned, so this can be a collaborative process. But let's open up with prayer before we jump in any further. Father, we thank you for this day where we can learn, we can grow from one another, Lord. I pray that your Holy Spirit would just be with us, and you just bless our time and just help us to continue to give you glory with how we coach and our athletic programs and the other programs that involve discipling students, Lord. There's so many different ways that we can do that here at Trinity Christian School. We thank you for the opportunity that you've given us to be at a place like this where we can really make an eternal impact for your kingdom. So I just speak blessing upon all these people here, Lord, and I just ask that you would just be with us during this time. In Jesus' name, amen. So I know when I first started coaching, when you first start coaching, what do you do? What do you tend to do as a young coach? What's kind of like your go-to method?
Yelling.
Yelling. Why did you start by yelling?
I'm just loud.
That's maybe your maybe
loud and angry.
Maybe it's your personality. Maybe you just kind of go with what feels natural. What are some other ways that you coach, or you, as a young coach, you started out?
Like you were coached.
Like you were coached. Thank you, Peggy. That's kind of where I wanted to go, because I think a lot of us, I know me, I didn't have a coaching degree, right? I didn't go to school for coaching. I just got coached throughout my whole life, right? Got coached by my dad. I got coached by other coaches. I got coached by coaches that I liked. I got coached by coaches that I didn't like. And I think for a lot of us, we just kind of maybe pick and choose things from the coaches that we like. Maybe we grab some of those things. I know how to coach in high school that was very relational, and I really got to know him, and he really poured into my life. And so I was like, oh yeah, that would be good to kind of add to my coaching toolbox. I had a coach in high school also that was super intense, right? Super intense, and at the right time, like he would get in your face, and I was like, whoa, man, that just changed my life. That talk that he just gave me, right? And so, I was like, how could I add that to some of my coaching, right? And then there were some coaches that I thought didn't do a very good job. They weren't very fair, or they played favorites, and I was like, I want to make sure that I never do that, right? So I think a lot of us go with what we kind of know from our experience, right? And raise your hand if you were coached by a Christian coach growing up. Whoa. That's awesome. That's awesome. I think maybe one of those I can maybe take credit for, because I coached Elizabeth. But that's amazing. But I was never coached by a Christian coach. So I didn't grow up in a Christian environment, really didn't go to Christian school. And so I really didn't have like an idea of what that looked like. So when I first came to Trinity, it was kind of like, okay, this is how I was coached. This is what I think is a good way to coach. Hey, I've seen some movies where there's some pretty cool coaches, right? I love sports movies, and so then we have the coaches that are popular in our culture, like the Bear Bryants and the John Woodens and stuff, and those type of legendary coaches that you can learn from. You can read some books, and so I think all those are good places to start. But I would say that I really missed the mark for a long time as a coach until I started asking the question, okay, how does God want me to coach? How does God want me to coach? And that's where kind of everything changed for me. And so we can talk about that a little bit more in a second, but I want to talk about that. How does God want us to coach? And so what I'd like to do is you guys to have a little dialogue about this, okay? So let's do this. Everybody stand up. Stand up. And since you're all kind of over there, I want you to line up according to the number of years that you've coached. So if this is like your first year coaching, you're down here by the couch. And this is like your, 40th year coaching like Brad. You're down over here by this couch. Sorry, hyperbole. Okay, so you're going to line up. Come on. So you're going to have to talk to each other, figure out where you are.
I don't fall into any category here.
But I have to coach long enough to sign my name for the last thing.
We're going to have to scoot down there a little bit. Scoot down there a little bit.
Okay.
3 more weeks on the scooter and then they're gonna let me know.
Okay, we've got about 20 people, so let's count off by fives. Let's count off by fives. Go, remember your number.
2,
3, 4, 5.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4.
5.
Awesome. Donna, are you getting in this?
No, I don't fit in this category of coaching.
Okay, but you need to be in the
Play
group.
along, play along.
You need to be in the group. So
Okay.
you're a 1.
I'm a 1.
Janita, are you getting in this?
I'm a 1.
You're a 2. You're 2.
Good
Okay.
I just be what I want to be.
So, get
I
with your
coach.
group.
Do what I
Get with your
want.
group.
Who's 2?
Get with your group.
5.
Spread out somewhere around the room.
BJ.
Get with your group.
We're down here with Coach Anderson. Are you a
Get with your group.
We're down there with Coach Anderson.
What are you saying we are? Who else was it?
I'm a 1. I'm talking
Here,
to
let's go
Donna.
to ones.
Who else is a 1?
Find a little spot where you guys can like gather, where you can gather and have a seat. Yeah, pull up some chairs, and there should be like 4 people in your group, maybe 5.
Oh, wow. There's a camera there.
Should be 4 or 5. Couch would be great over there. That's good.
We only have 3 boards.
He's gonna bring his own chair.
You guys a group?
Hey, Curtis, will you lend me my knee pad?
Your blue pen.
Okay. Is this group of 3 here?
BJ.
Okay. Not how we end up with your
Two's up there.
Okay.
There's only 3 in there.
Okay.
What number are you?
Okay. We got a group over there?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay,
I don't have
awesome.
anything to write with, but.
Yeah, you're gonna need something to write with?
That's pretty good.
You need something to write with? Okay, guys. Okay, so what I'd like you to do is just have a little discussion. I've got some thought questions for you, and I want you guys with your group to kind of come up with some answers and write them down, and then we're gonna kind of debrief as a group. Okay, so 5 questions. I'll give you about 12 minutes. 12 minutes. Okay, so ready, set, go.
definition of coaching?
Question number one says, what is the definition of coaching?
So I'm gonna cheat. So I'm like, I don't think you've ever done that. It's my coaching philosophy. So like I put together a document that has like my coaching philosophy. So that's where I stand, what I do, what's going on. So I can see whatever aspect, opinions of every aspect of coaching. And so through that, before there's three things that I've always tried to be and social, like you're trying to make sure one is high character and student athlete. I also want to build long-lasting positive relationships. And I want to build always making a position. And so from there, I don't necessarily have a definition, but those were the three goals that I would, or three goals in mind of what I want to get done. And so, and underneath each one of those points, I kind of have the goals developed over the years, or different areas. And so one of the things that always has stood out to me, like a biblical definition of coaching, is this idea of and these are the four things I wrote down: servant attitude, and I think all four of those are very challenges to so if I can hang on those principles
With the coaching,
I'm trying to instill in programs, and I think my program's gonna be successful because you're a player in sports, or fine arts, it weights. Those are the sort of things that you want to happen on the stage, or teaching on the field, wherever it goes. So I don't know if I have a definition, but those are four pillars that I've tried to make sure about, that commitment, that team.
Father through him.
I definitely agree, and I think that.
It's not an open book test.
Our students. You told him to put his Bible away, cheating.
That's a biblical definition.
I read our Bible.
I think he's going to the right source.
Yeah.
I think we're right at
I think,
discipling.
to me, that is very much
Discipling. Like I think of my guys as being,
it's the focus on the
teaching them what it
training of
means
them,
to
to training of the individual to be
you know,
the best of
and
them.
not just, we want to be competitors and we want to be,
Yeah, so what is a biblical
because life
definition?
gets hard.
Well, the first one, through a servant attitude.
Absolutely. Because life gets, when life is, and there's my reverse.
I just challenge you.
And then work it.
And here's the one I'm thinking about.
I think I have some spiritually,
Maybe I should fight, because there are moments in our lives when we have to fight. Like, there are moments when in my marriage, I've got to fight for my marriage. And so in teaching my kids
It's one
how
of these things, they're all hard
to
issues.
work hard,
Are you the strongest,
hard
the
work,
fastest,
maybe that's
the
better,
fairest?
maybe that's better.
Where does your heart
Because
go?
we're teaching
A work ethic.
yeah, we're teaching them a work ethic that is, so in them having to run because they didn't reach a goal, that's not because they didn't reach an ultimate goal. There's only goals.
When it is.
And I want them to pursue their goals
For certain attitude,
know that they can do
John
hard
13,
things.
1.
And even when marriage gets hard, and you don't want to love your wife,
Schools are gonna choose, you know what I mean?
Press it,
School string,
you know?
it's like, yeah,
Also,
like
and then I've done Romans
society
12,
is turned
1
into,
through 2.
like, you have to do everything.
Through teamwork, I put
Yeah.
1 Corinthians, the whole chapter,
First Corinthians,
chapter 12. 1 Corinthians 12, through work ethic, I put 2 Timothy 2:15. So if you guys want to look those up later, but those are some scriptures that kind of tie into those four principles, kind of things that we're trying to get accomplished. That you can kind of read through and kind of see or grab where that's coming from. So, we didn't have to go with my answer, but we're cheating, so you can use my 17 years of experience there.
Dude, you're not cheating. You're bringing your stuff to the table. Everybody's bringing their own. Everybody's bringing their own stuff.
So anyway,
Thing, just,
Definition different than the world's view of
in
coaching.
biblical principles,
I would think so.
Yeah,
I would agree.
absolutely.
I totally agree, and I think that's a huge mistake of young coaches. Right, you know, a young coach comes in, all they can do is obviously, and I can remember earlier, like I watched the main one, we began to goal.
I didn't even know that 23, you know, it's like struggling, like, wasn't
Even
like
if
all
the
that,
goals
like, we're all gonna work hard, and coaches, and he said,
When did you ever hear me talk about
to
the
focus
But even,
on,
you know, like some of those other coaches, even if
that's
it's
the
a
goal,
problem,
selfish.
what you're doing.
So then,
You know, I mean,
when
like,
it came to
working hard
what
to
to
do
do,
is
I don't know, just process, year later.
So, think there's a lot of things that we could probably look at, and yeah, sort of hard work, perseverance, sure, Bear Ryan,
With
we're
that,
just these players, but
coaching, it's all about
for what,
what it is.
what was
There's a
involved?
lot of
What is
things.
we can define?
And the thing is that they have to learn, on top of, in addition to all this, you have to learn how to lose. Because here's the reality, at some point in your life, you're gonna come up against someone who's on the and you're going to lose. And so, at some point, you have to learn how to lose, and you have to learn how to handle the loss, you have to learn how to pick up and move on from the loss, I mean, and if all that matters is winning, what do you do? Then all of a sudden you win. Do you towel? Do you try again? What do you do?
I always think about that too, like, here's the real question, is like, this why do you want it, like, more, like, some of this stuff, like, why do I want to make it hard? So anytime you are faced with challenge, you know, like,
I think our definition comes to the side,
oh,
right?
this is, like, you know what I mean, there's a process, but you know that, like, you're gonna miss
In order to learn how to make
but
it
it's,
correctly,
do that, you know, like I said, you're feeling like, I work hard, but I don't really want to point.
So, some things I wrote down. Yeah. I think it's awesome. Right? I mean, again, we live in a society where shit can't happen in the first 10 minutes. I can break my commitment to honor, whether that's your marriage, whether that's your whatever. I'm going to break it.
you're very fair weather.
I agree. Some of the things, so that second point, in my philosophy, I talk about building positive relationships. Well, that's designed to chance to let Christ show for me, right? And so one of the things I wrote down was, and that was based on love, which is keeping the best interest of others as a priority. Reinforcing loyalty and friendship, emphasizing communication, and then finding mutual interests rather than self-interest. Right? So those four things, to me, when I look at this, what is like the principles, those line up.
Way to be a Christian coach, you have to be, you know,
Everyone always says this, if I can teach them how to love each other, if I can teach them how to be committed, if I can teach them how to get along with each other, if I can teach them that self-assurance.
no, let me tell you what else I do. It's like to keep, you know, to be around my kids. Kids almost like, oh my gosh, like
You
this,
cannot disciple an individual without having that relationship. We had a very wise man said, to preach, you have to reach each individual where they're at. We have to get on the kids' levels and create that relationship in order to
And rules without relationships.
Most of that relationship, we have the value of relationship without relationship.
yeah, that's all I mean, like, so you know, his name's something cover scripturally. I think, yeah, and I think that's one of the things too, is that when you're doing it, it's calling them out. Like that, like, it's just like teaching, kids to know that, you know, like, you know, what I mean, like, something like that, show us, ready, you know,
Sometimes it's even yourself.
2 minutes. 2 minutes, guys. 2 minutes.
I think a lot of it also does have to do with living out of the I think back to all of the coaches that I've had in my life, both athletic and fine art, just across the board. And I can tell you the good ones, I can tell you the bad ones, just because of how they closed out. I can tell you the coach that sat up in the stands and tried to bully everybody who played basketball. I can tell you the coach that was there, when I was training, stepped up and living it out is a huge thing.
I think I told our guys, having senior return conversation
Or it became really
As long as I stay here, you're gonna go out here. I just think that's the biggest, in my opinion, the biggest it can be toxic.
You have that
Because it is usually a great point for anyone to get done about
opportunities.
No matter what the world's telling you, pound it on your chest, everyone's like, well, it's not about you.
You know, so it's just
That's their attitude. And, you know, greatness is real for how you grow through that. So what he did with here is not a complete setback. Failure is the ultimate. How do you serve grow and strive? And if I have a great servant attitude, I become a great servant leader. And in my mind, servant leaders that's the servant leaders. I can care less if lay them down, shop, one shot, I don't care. If they leave the program, I'm servant leaders. That's how far it's most. And I've had some great players that are servant leaders. And the stories that stick out in my head for 7 years of coaching is that hardly got before, and now they get back to me and they're leading in the workplace and using some of those tools they got through athletics and
Perception, because when you said,
so anyway, that's just me, and I just think before that we did in our definition. Yours is gonna be what you look in the mirror, right? And what do you want, not only a trained Christian baseball kid to look like, but what do you want a Coach Phillips player to look like? Is there characteristics that can line up that when they're somewhere else, that guy played for Coach Phillips? You can tell, right? That guy, girl, she was on the stage, all that stuff. So anyway.
There's your signal. We're coming back. Okay, good discussion. I like to kind of just jump around and hear what you guys were talking about. One of my coaching mentors talks about coaching as rocket science, and the reason why is that he was coaching in college, and he had a guy who was a rocket scientist at his college, and he came and he started helping him with the coaching, and he said, "Man, my job as a rocket scientist is a whole lot simpler than all the things that you have to juggle and all the things you have to think about and all the things that you have to decide on a daily basis as a coach." So he likes to say, coaching, it might be rocket science. And hey, that's kind of what I've experienced is coaching is endlessly challenging and it's endlessly stimulating. The more you put into it, the more you realize there's more that you need to learn and work on. And so it's not easy stuff. But I think God has given us a good model and a good framework for this. So I want us to understand this, like what the worldview of coaching is. So did you guys come up with a good definition, a biblical definition of coaching that you'd like to share?
I had the open notes, so I go.
Okay, this group, you had the Bible open, so what did you guys come up with? What did you guys come up with?
Oh, me?
Yes.
Oh,
You have the
God.
Bible.
All right, so we didn't put it down in one sentence, but I look at all these guys, we just kind of wrote it all down. We said, coaching, biblical definition is discipling, creating men and women of character who are hardworking, persevering for not a temporary goal, but an endless reward.
Nice. So the key words that I heard you say is discipling, right? Some other things you said were what? Character, right? Perseverance.
Work ethic.
Is that E or A? Work ethic. Good.
And that the end goal was eternal.
Eternal. Okay, good. That's good. Like an eternal reward. Good. Discipling, character, perseverance, worth ethic, eternal reward. Anybody else? Other groups want to add to that?
So
Or share your definition?
yeah, so we'll go with the idea of we want to coach in a way that we are going to develop Christ-like behavior in our athletes, in our student athletes, through a servant attitude, through a commitment, through teamwork, and through work ethic. And then
Good.
I've got 4 scripture references there if you want them for each one of those key 4 words.
Awesome. So those principles. I think we had a like question 3 dealt with the certain principles
Yes.
we want to teach.
So you can get back to that later.
So maybe we'll come back to those specific principles. But I think the gist of that is we're developing Christ-like behavior. Yeah.
Correct.
Anything else? Anything else different from anything that you guys got?
We talked a little bit about in ours how that the athlete has to achieve to their utmost ability that's been given to them by God. I don't know if that fits, but it's more of an individual type of discipleship, because kids always think they can do more and do better. Well, maybe that God didn't give them that ability.
Okay.
That goes down to number 5.
That's good. So some, you know, some are
How to balance that?
they're
in other
trying
words.
they're trying to reach their own potential and their own ability, right? Okay. Good. Anything else we need to add to that? Biblical definition of coaching? No? Okay. Yeah, I think you guys nailed it. I think for me, it's coming along students and helping them know Jesus better, really. And using your sport or using whatever you're doing, theater, whatever it is, to present Christ to them and help them grow in their relationship to Jesus Christ. So the sport or whatever you're doing is the tool that you're using to disciple them, to help them grow in their faith, right? So that they can become more like Jesus Christ. And the more that they learn about Jesus Christ, the more that they know Him, the more that they learn from the experiences that athletics or whatever activity they're in presents to them, they will be able to learn to become more Christ-like in how they live their lives. Okay, so I think we're definitely about this big picture here. So how does that differ from the world's definition?
World, you're determined on wins and losses.
Okay, yeah, good.
That's it.
Okay,
We just put our end goals are different.
Yeah.
And we said that you can still like good coaches, Christian or not, still want, like, you look at Bear Bryant or anybody like that, they still want guys to work hard and persevere, but to what end?
mm-hmm.
You know, to what end? And I think that's gotta be our
Okay.
focus is, why do we want our guys to be hard workers? Why do we want them to be able to persevere through challenges and difficulties?
Okay,
So the end goals are different.
so,
Exactly what
okay,
God said.
yeah, okay.
Yeah, but here's the playing devil's advocate. Do you remember those great coaches back in the day if they don't win? And
As
I think,
an individual, as an athlete, most definitely.
I mean, just in general, does the world talk about them if they don't win? Are we talking about Bear Bryant?
Well,
If
are
Bear
we
Bryant
coaching
didn't
to be
win, are we
recognized
talking
by the
about?
world, or are we coaching to be recognized by the athlete?
This the world view. That's what I'm saying. Like, are we recognizing Coach K because his wins or because he brings everything to it? Like
Well, right
what?
now it's because it's wins.
And then we see the character, and I think that's where the world comes in. We wouldn't even know about a Coach K or Bear Bryant if they didn't win.
So this is a great discussion. So where does winning fall here?
I think you wanna win. I think
Yeah.
any of us don't wanna win.
Yeah, so where?
I wanna lose at
so-
lowest cost camp bad.
So, hey, so let me ask you this, define winning.
Yeah, that's, yeah.
The
Is it
biblical
the ex-
definition or the worldview?
Well, I think we know what the world's definition is the scoreboard,
Right.
right? So what's the biblical definition of winning?
To glorify God.
Are your actions?
Do everything to the best of your ability.
Okay, we're glorifying God.
like Cliff Kingsbury's gonna be out of a job, even if he was a strong Christian man, like, people aren't gonna save his job. Like, I think that's where the worldview comes in on a win and loss. Like, even though he's really, like, if he was really pouring into him, if he's still 1-in-26 versus the Big 12, like, he's out of a job.
Right.
Because the world doesn't care
Right?
if he's sharing Christian views
Yeah.
with him. It does come to the winning side.
So, if God created everything, right? Everything, like, everything that's ever created, right? And God created the best way of doing things, right? If we coach kids like Jesus, let's say if Cliff Kingsbury was coaching Texas Tech like Jesus would they win?
Yes.
Why?
Because Jesus is the smartest person who ever lived.
Let's say Coach Kingsbury, since we're talking about him, he's using biblical principles to coach his team. Is that going to result in winning?
It's
gonna give him, I think it'll give him the
Best
one
chance.
best opportunity. It'll put him in the best position too.
I would argue that as well. I'm not saying it necessarily would follow, because you have to have the right athletes and stuff like that, but let's say you're teaching them biblical principles, which is the way the world works, right? Best, character development and all those things, right? All those types of principles we're going to talk about here in a second. Is that going to result in the best opportunity, all other things being equal, to win? You want to add? You want to add to that?
Yes, I think.
No?
No, look at Vanderbilt. That's a classic example. They're teaching to the biblical worldview. The coaches come in and that is their primary principle. And the results are not that they're winning 12 games a year. They're winning 3 or 4. Well, why is that? Well, because the athletes that they're getting. Well, does that mean they're getting bad athletes? Well, they're getting bad athletes according to playing against a Notre Dame or Michigan or something like that. But yet they're getting better people, not necessarily better athletes.
Okay.
Being sports.
Okay, yes,
Athletes
you
are-
would add to that?
I would like to say, like, I think that if you put the athletes aside and you take the coaching,
Right.
if you use biblical principles, yes, we would have the best potential to win.
Okay, so give
But-
the same athletes
Yes.
to different coaches.
But the other thing I think is that when we start getting into Christian coaching, sometimes it's, well, you did your hardest. And I think the challenge as a Christian coach is to say, I understand you're trying, but I understand your God-given potential and you're not reaching it right now. I think that that's the biggest challenge in Christian coaching.
Yeah,
Okay.
you look at a guy like Dabo Sweeney, loves Jesus and is baptizing dudes at practice and coaching from that mentality. Like, I think his worldview is very gospel-centered. And you see that that's translated into guys that are willing to get on the field and be able to put everything they have in there. And I think that's what you're trying to accomplish as a coach who's a Christian, is getting guys to get on the field, to get on the floor, and to give their, Colossians 3:23,
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, absolutely.
And I
They're coaching more than just the game in that scenario. That's what I think. Like, a coach doing that, they're not worried about just the wins and losses. They're caring actually about, like, that's a player's coach. They care about the player, so they are gonna be kind of discipling to their players versus like, are you just a commodity?
Mm-hmm.
You know, especially in the recruiting side of it. Are you a commodity that I'm just using you because I've got to keep my job and I've got to win? Or do I know I got here because I poured into guys, I got the guys that people may have not thought I would have got. I'm working with them to develop, their whole life, spiritually and physically, and, you work emotionally with them, like they know that you have a buy-in as a coach.
Yeah, if Jesus was the smartest one that ever lived, then if we look at how he coached, he was always in it for people. He wasn't trying to build a building. He wasn't trying to build a team necessarily. He was investing in each of those individual lives, and when they succeeded, because he invested in them, then the team succeeded as well.
Yeah, I agree totally. I think he built a team. It was his disciples. But again, so like building, like he actually put a team out there of hand-picked people. But on that too, you take all your great winning coaches, you take all your coaches that we would put up in the successful category. How often do you hear them talk about winning? They buy into the process, not necessarily the product. In our Christian walk, right? If all we focused on was the cross, we'd fall all the time. If all I ever did was look at the cross, I would never be good enough to gain that cross, right? But the process allows me to keep striving for the cross. The process of becoming a Christian, what that is, what Christianity looks like. Same thing with athletics. If all I ever did was focus on the winning, I'm gonna fall more than not. But if I can buy in the process, all those individual successes that come with it can build to the success in what's going on. Yeah, deep down behind the scenes, I want to win just like the next person, right? But I can't let winning be all that it's about. I've got to take the process on what and let the wins take care of itself.
So kind of you're saying that winning is not the goal, it's the product.
Correct.
Doing the right thing, doing the right process.
I would think so.
Right? So, yeah, I think that's a fair way to look at it, right? So, I love the saying that if you do the right things, the score will take care of itself, right? So
Correct.
you play the right way, you have the right attitudes, you have the right character, you have the right effort, then winning will be the byproduct of all the right things all the little right things and all the little right choices that you're making and all the little things that you're doing to get prepared properly,
The
strategize.
worldview doesn't, they're not looking at that, cause it's a process.
Mhm.
Like I said, if you're not winning by, in
Uh-huh.
the worldview, where it's the wins, losses, we're not gonna give you forever and a day to make Tech win. Well, I would, but.
We usually get 3 years.
But you know what I mean, it's like, oh, you better fix
Back
it,
up.
and you better fix it quickly, or it's, I'm taking it away, whereas on the other side, Jesus' teams didn't win the first games at every time. I mean, they
So-
worked and worked and worked, and it wasn't all victory, they had
Okay.
to suffer defeat. We're worldly, we don't wanna see defeat, that's not good.
And
Right.
that's the thing, I think learning how to lose is
Yeah.
part of the process.
Mm.
Is if you all you ever do is win, when someday when you do come against someone who is better, because there is always someone better, and you lose, if you've never learned how to lose, you don't know how to handle it, you don't know how to pick up and move forward from it. I mean, so it's like you said, disciples did not win every time they stepped foot out. So they had to learn, okay, I lost, here's what I can do better, here's how I can fix it. So I think that's an important
I
part of the
also think
process.
that,
Good.
I also think that what Benny's saying, I think where it's acceptable is it through the process you see the growth. I think if you look at Tech right now, I think the frustrating part is that they're undisciplined. Undisciplined. It's just, it's just horrible. But
Well,
I think
yeah.
that if the process, through the process, if you see growth, I think despite the fact you wanna win, you're gonna be a little bit more patient because you can see it and you know it's gonna happen eventually.
Okay, so let me ask you this, because I want to kind of segue into this. So you're coaching at Trinity, right? Okay, and so at the end of your season, we're not really. Hopefully, if you don't win a lot, you're not thinking I'm going to lose my job. So, what are some of the things that you are thinking about that hey, for me to be successful this year, this is what I need to do with my particular team. These are some biblical principles that I need to instill in my team this year for me to be successful according to this standard. What are some things that you guys talked about? It's kind of question number 3.
So we hung on those 4 things I kind of read.
Okay, yeah, read
that
those
was our
again.
group.
Read
So
those
that
again.
was a servant attitude, commitment, teamwork, and work ethic were the 4 things we kind of hung on.
Okay.
And Coach Phillips might want to add, he was really big on, he had some good points about the idea of commitment and what that looks like and what that means. I don't want to put him on the spot, but
Servant attitude, commitment, teamwork, and work
ethic.
Work ethic? You want to add to that, Coach?
Yeah, just the idea that if you're committed, you're gonna commit, if you commit to the team, you're gonna commit to everything. You're gonna commit to your grades, you're gonna commit to your teammate, you're gonna commit to the process, you're gonna commit to everything that's involved. I mean, and commitment's huge. I mean, it's not just a simple decision. And in our world today, hey, let's go get a divorce. It takes nothing. I mean, so it's commitment's important.
So do you have some core values? You have some core values for your team. You have some core values for your program that you're thinking, okay, these are the things that I'm teaching on a regular basis that are bigger than just X's and O's, bigger than just my sport. I know for us, getting those core values in place on the volleyball side of things several years ago were key to just kind of just give us this framework of this is what we're all about. This is where we're heading. Any others you want to add to that? Principles?
We talked about being encouragers and not criticizing your teammates. But
Okay.
encouraging them.
Okay.
Respect.
Encouragement, respect. I mean, we can talk about a ton of character qualities here, right? So how do we teach these? Coaches, how do we go about doing this? Be an example.
I can't hold back, if we've been working with the varsity boys about encouragement and enthusiasm. So when their teammate gets on the ground for a loose ball, they better be going, yelling, hey, good job, even if they're not on the necessary team, that they're not on that 3-on-3 team. But if we're not willing to set that example as an encourager and be enthusiastic, how in the world can I expect them to do something I'm not willing to do myself?
Absolutely right. I think that's by far the most important thing. is leading by example. If we want to train our kids to be Christ-like, we have to exhibit that every single day. And you don't get a lot of mistakes, okay? Yeah, we're not going to be perfect as coaches, but man, if you're asking your athletes to do something, you better be doing it. That's just fundamental, right? If you're asking your kids to become more Christ-like, you're going to need to be modeling what that looks like. I know for me, coaching girls, you know, my greatest witness to them is not necessarily what I say to them, but it's how I act, right? So that they get to see, okay, here's what hopefully a godly man looks like in the heat of competition, when we win, when we lose. Does he show up on time? How does he treat his wife? How does he treat his kids, right? How does he talk to people? How does he treat the officials? How does he deal with parents? How does he, all those things, right? So we get to be ambassadors for Christ in this arena as coaches. And that, I think, is the most important thing that you could possibly do. It goes before anything that you say to your athletes.
I was just going to say, you said, you know, not a whole lot of room for error. With the leadership discipleship kids, I felt like I had made an error, and it had caused division in our leadership discipleship kids. And so right before we left for leadership retreat, I stood in front of all of them and told them I had made a mistake and asked them to forgive me. I've had a handful of those kids come and say that moment was very impactful for them, for me to see me humble myself and admit that I'd made a mistake. And so, you know, we're not going to be perfect. None of us are. But when we're not perfect, we better be willing to be humble.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I think kind of the same thing, like, even though you're an example, like, you've got to talk about your failures. Because, I mean, everybody here thinks that every student's going to walk through thinking, well, you went to a Christian school, that's why you're I mean, I never went to school here, and everybody thought I was an alumni. You know, and even though I'm sorry for those that are alumni, but who says that made you a Christian? You know what I mean? Like, what's your real walk like? Not just my example right now, because right now I am hopefully on more of the right path, but that I have had failures so that they do see there's that relational side of going, you know, you're not just getting on to me because I messed up over here, that I was, you know, I went to a party like, you know, nobody here ever has gone to a party ever. Like, you're a heathen, you're going to hell. You know, like, but it's going in like, hey, like, this is what you've got to learn from your failures, and they need to know that versus just going like, everybody thinking that everybody just had this clear, great path in their life.
Absolutely. You need to be a real person. Absolutely. I mean, that's key for discipleship. I just wanted to share with you, for us as a volleyball program, this is where things started taking off. And where, for me as a coach, things started changing is where I started trying to build in these discipleship lessons into our themes for the year. And so this really happened about 5 years ago. And before that, our themes were kind of volleyball related, you know, like digging deep, right? Okay, we were kind of digging balls, right, and stuff like that. But after that, we just started getting started thinking a little bit more about discipleship. And so in 2012, it was This Is Who We Are. So we just talked about identity. What's our identity? What's our identity? What's our identity in Christ, right? It's bigger than just winning and losing volleyball games. So guess what? It's okay if we mess up. It's okay if we lose. We're not defined by wins and losses. The next year we talked about let your life speak. Discipleship focus there was purpose, right? What's our purpose? It's to glorify God, right? We get to go out and play our sport and get to glorify God. That's our purpose. The next year was We Are Second, and then we focused on character, right? Humility, putting Christ ahead of us, others ahead of us, right? Last year was Audience of One, so we talked about success. What is our definition of success? Are we truly trying to please our parents, our friends, so-and-so in the stands, or are we just playing for our audience of one? And this year we've been talking about hearing God's voice above all others, because I feel like especially girls, they hear this kind of voice of the world telling them that you have to be this or you have to be that, or maybe I'm struggling with something, and guess what? God's greater than that. So that's kind of how, that's how we've kind of done it in the volleyball program, and I know you guys do it all in your own ways, but I just want to encourage you that this is really what has made the difference for us, and coaching has become a ministry, and that's really why you are here. You are ministers of the gospel of Jesus Christ, in your particular sport, and you get to have a huge impact on these kids, for good or for not. And I want to just leave you guys with this. This is for kind of your own personal reflection. And here's just some other questions that I was thinking about as I was thinking about talking to you guys. And you can take these with you because we need to wrap up. But just some things to think about as you continue to go and grow as a coach. So question number 1, how am I modeling Christ likeness to my athletes? How am I modeling that to the parents that are in my program? One more, sorry. Number 2, how am I being intentional about building relationships with my athletes? What specific practical things am I trying to do to build those relationships? 3, how do I motivate my athletes? How did Jesus motivate his disciples? Think about that. How am I motivating? Am I using fear? Am I using incentives, or am I using Jesus' example, which is love? If I were to ask your athletes what your priorities as a coach are, what do you think they would say? So your coach cares about what? I mean, if we were to ask your athletes, what would they say? Primarily, are you modeling these priorities that that Coach, I heard you say in our meeting earlier, right? God, family, school, sports, and everything else, right? Are we really modeling that for our athletes? And then what are you working on as a coach? How are you trying to improve and grow? We all want to be lifelong learners, and we all can get better in all these areas. So great discussion. Thank you guys for your participation. I hope this was a little bit stimulating for you guys, and just want to encourage you guys that appreciate you guys so much, and you guys are awesome, and bless you guys in your coaching ministry. Thanks.